Do I have to know Linux to grow in information security? What would you say to this, John?
No, but it's a nice to have. I think you need to understand the kind of architecture of Linux, groups, users, and everyone. So when you set apples on it, a little bit about the operating system, but now you don't have to understand Linux. I think you being as a security savant guru, you will want to learn it, right? Because you start stacking your skills, the more stuff you learn, really the more money you can make. And as a GRC person, if you got to go talk to the Linux people, they can be assholes. So if you don't have any background, they gonna run over you, man. So you gotta have some understanding. So that's my take on it. I like to understand that because that's one thing I bring is I can talk to those teams. So when you talk about STIGs or schisms or CIF checks, I'm gonna have to come up with a compensated control and work with those guys. Right. So I think you understand it's gonna help you with the communication because there is some technical overview if you're in that lane, policies and procedures. But once you talk about the whole program, you got to work with those different teams. So Linux is definitely a highly used operating system. I think you should learn it, but it's not a must have.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. Do you have to? Not necessarily, unless your job requires it. Is it better to have? Yeah, it is. It's definitely better to, especially a command line interface on both Linux and the back end of Windows. It's going to be very helpful to you. And the deeper you get into this, the more you're going to have to know. So, do you absolutely have to? No, you don't. Should you? Yeah, I think you should, right? You should at least know Linux, at least like mess around with Linux and mess around. You're going to have to mess around with Windows. There's no way around it.
Right.
But I would mess around with it, and then I would definitely get into the command line interface.